Hello, I am Ruby, and I wanted to start out my BookTube channel with, I don't know, something a little fun, something a little interesting, maybe even a challenge, even. So I'm thinking 5 books, 5 days. So to complete this challenge, I need to do 3 things in order. Step 1, choose the books, obviously. Step 2, read the books, even more obviously. And step number 3, win. But also I will tell you about the books, what I thought about them, what I thought was good, what I thought was bad, and just my overall experience. So, let's get to step 1. Welcome to my TBR Shelf. Don't ask how many books are on here. You do not want to know the answer. But for this challenge, I have to think things out seriously, or this just isn't going to work. Okay? So I need to choose short books, obviously, a book that I can read in one day, in a couple hours. But the thing is, I don't want to take just the easy route. I don't want to take, a book that I can read in an hour and a half, like White Nights or something. I need, 200 pages, so that it'll take me a couple hours, but I don't want to have too much trouble. Okay, so after absolutely ripping my TBR shelf apart, I have decided on 6 books. So I'm giving myself one wild card if I want to. But the first book that I want to read is Joan Didion's Blue Nights. And if I didn't say this before, this is her memoir on motherhood and her experiences as such. This will be my first Didion. I thrift my books, so I have to take it as it comes to me, but I am super excited to get to that. So I want to read that on Monday. On Tuesday, I want to read Moore's Utopia, because I don't have as much time on Tuesday as I'd like to read, so I had to choose a bit of a shorter one. But this is, kind of the basis of communism morals, I guess, and what a perfect society looks like. So I'm going to read that on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'm going to read Brave New World. This one has always felt like a lot more daunting than it actually is. Like, this book seems really long, but it's actually only, I think, like 170 pages, I guess, depending on your copy. But I want to read this on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, that's classic dystopian. And then on Thursday, these are my choice books, since I chose 6. I either want to read Franny and Zoe by Salinger or Heart of Darkness. So this Franny and Zoe, it's 2 interconnected short stories. It's by the same author as Catcher in the Rye, which I really like that book, so I think that I'll really like this one. And this is, let's see, just over 200 pages. So that one's a little bit longer than Heart of Darkness, which I believe this is like 160. Yeah, about 160 pages. This one is steamship driver, or goes to the Congo. So, another classic I'm excited to get to. And then on Friday, I also don't have that much time. So on Friday, I'm going to read Fathers and Sons, which is a little bit shorter than the rest of these. Well, no, it's 160 pages. Okay, these are all about 160 pages. But Russian classic that I'm super excited to get into. I think it's about a father, a more conservative father and a more liberal son that's kind of leaning into nihilism. Russian classic. Super excited. So those are the 6 books that I choose, but I'm only going to read 5 of these. So that's my prep. My prep is all done. 5 days have passed. And you may be asking the question, Ruby, did you read 5 books in 5 days? The answer is no, I didn't. But I did read 4 of them, okay, which I think is a pretty noble act. On day 1, I read for a total of 3 hours and 11 minutes, okay? 2 hours and 41 minutes of that was me starting and finishing Blue Nights by Joan Didion, okay? And then I read for an extra 30 minutes, I started Brave New World, okay? Day number 2 is where things started to go wrong because I was a lot more busy than I expected myself to be. And so I read for 1 hour and 12 minutes, which on any normal day would be a decent reading time. But if I'm trying to read a copious amount of books in 5 days, an hour's not going to cut it. So on day 3, I had to lock in. All right, day 3, I read for a total of 6 hours and 53 minutes. Okay, so 5 hours and 11 minutes of that was me finishing Brave New World, and then I read for an extra hour and 42 minutes starting Moore's Utopia. On day number 4, I read for 2 hours and 4 minutes and cleared off Utopia. And then on day number 5, today, I read for 3 hours and 36 minutes, start to finish, Heart of Darkness. Okay? So in the past 5 days alone, I have read just under 17 hours. So, just to recap what I said there, Blue Nights took me 2 hours and 41 minutes. Brave New World took me 5 hours and 11 minutes, even though it looks so small. Utopia took me 3 hours and 45 minutes, even though that also looks so small. And Heart of Darkness took me 3 hours and 37 minutes. So, I'd say that's pretty good in 5 days. I mean, just under 17 hours of reading in 5 days, that's like 3.5 hours per day. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So, I want to tell you about these books. So the first book, Joan Didion's Blue Nights. As I said in the intro of this video, this is my first Joan Didion, and I am glad to now have read her. And this is her memoir kind of on motherhood and her experiences. Overall, this is a really compelling series of moments that lead up to and follow the death of Didion's daughter, Quintana. And the overall kind of purpose of this book seemed to be an attempt to nail down the exact moment or time or event that the darker days began, that Didion seemed to know were coming this whole time. And throughout the book, she repeated, phrases that both herself and Quintana said. She sprinkled them in repetitively throughout the story, and it really added depth and kind of a serious nature to what she was saying. And it was less kind of loss and more kind of fear and anticipation, and it was less of death than of grief and, aging even. And it was less of childhood and more of motherhood, which, obviously that was her experience as such. But overall, I did really enjoy this book. I think that this is the sort of book that I should read again when I'm older and I can maybe understand that motherhood fear a little bit more. But as a young person, this book was still really good and really well written, and I'm hoping to get to some more Didion very soon. So the second book that I read, Brave New World. This book obviously is a very famous dystopian classic, and for a very good reason. This is a very good book. What was funny a bit about my reading experience here is I forget that since I have the Bantam version of this, and it's the mass market paperback where they put as many words as possible on one page. So this actually was probably like a 350 page book that I thought was going to be short. So this was a bad choice to read in just a few days. But overall, this was a very good book and I really enjoyed my experience with it. It did kind of surprise me because with dystopians, I always kind of expect, that there is going to be a main character introduced and then that main character is going to, destroy the dystopian society by the end. And that didn't happen. So this was more, kind of about choice and who makes that choice for you. So the main character by the end of the book, the savage, he chose that he didn't like the new technologically advanced world, and so he chose to live on his own, and he chose a life that I sure wouldn't want to live, and I sure wouldn't choose to live it, but I wouldn't choose to live in the technologically advanced one either. But near the end, he spoke to kind of like a high up official in the in this society, and they had a conversation about choice, and I think that it was really the most impactful passage of this whole book because the people within this society cannot choose whether they want to, be born naturally and have a mother and live a normal life as we would view it now, or whether they would rather choose to live in this world where they are constantly happy because everybody is perfect and all you do is take drugs and be happy and be loose. That's all you do. So they can't really make that choice because from day one somebody is chosen for them. But it was interesting because that official didn't seem inherently evil. He had made the choice that he thought was right for himself, thinking that, I could have chosen humanity as a goal for my life, but instead I chose the happiness of others. So it's kind of thinking about what is contentedness and what is happiness more than what is dystopian, I suppose. That was a bit of a roundabout way to say that this was a very good dystopian, and it thinks more on, the technological advancements that are probably going to come very soon with the speed that we have been advancing, but this book is very good, and I recommend that to anybody. Next, I read Moore's Utopia. This was told from the voice of a man named Raphael who had recently traveled to Utopia. And so his perception of that civilization was blanketed with, recency bias. And so his view of this place was incredibly positive. But as you read through here, you can kind of see how this isn't as utopian as Raphael is making it out to seem. Because, it is kind of a show to a society can only be as good as the people within it. And all of these people seem very happy and very good. And whether that's real in this fictitious sense, or whether that's, just Raphael's skew on the thing, these people seem very happy and therefore the society is a happy one. But how can there be a utopia if there is slaves and a ruler? Kind of who is this a utopia for? But there was a couple interesting things in here, like their view of gold and, precious metals that we would view as very valuable, they view as nothing. Like, their slaves walked around in chains of gold, and they were, wearing more gold than the richest king in the world would. But this is kind of, since it is visibly kind of skewed, it's important to think about, a society is also only as strong as the weakest link. So, for example, one of the examples in this book were the ruler's wife. If a mother was not able to breastfeed her baby, the ruler's wife would step in and be the wet nurse because, of course, the ruler's wife would be so happy to do so. She would love to do so. But what if the ruler's wife didn't want to? Then a crack would fall into that society. And, multiple occurrences of equal nature would continue to perpetuate these cracks and the society could crumble. So, it's kind of, who is this utopia for and how long can a utopia of this nature stay around, because it could fall apart just with a couple people not willing to play into their roles. But overall, I kind of expected for this to be a bit more compelling. It kind of wasn't that compelling, in my opinion. What I did think was the best part of this, which this sounds like a bit of a put down. My favorite part of this book was the introduction written by the translator. Because although this book was originally written in 1516, which is crazy because this felt like more modern ideas, like at least the 18th or 19th centuries. But the introduction of this book kind of, written from the translator, kind of put it in conversation with other works like Lord of the Flies or Brave New World that I had just read the previous day. And so I thought that the introduction of this book was kind of like, it really put this into a larger scope that made the book more interesting than I think the book itself was. So it was nice to see how this connected to other works that I have read in the past. So, Utopia was okay. It was kind of interesting, it was kind of fun, but I wouldn't go out of your way. It was okay. And another book where the entire thing is told from a singular monologue from the narrator of this book, Heart of a Darkness. Heart of a Darkness I also kind of expected more from. If I'm going to be honest, Heart of a Darkness let me down a little bit. But kind of the main themes of this story is like humanity is dark. And within civilization and society, that darkness can hide. But out in this untamed wilderness, that darkness that humanity naturally holds is let loose. You know, and it kind of questions, are people naturally evil and naturally dark, or is it, you know, their environment that pulls it out of them? Is it naturally there, or is it created within this unsettling nature and surroundings? I think, you know, a main theme of this is that colonialism is bad, and people who are coming from, you know, dark places and doing things from the darkness within their heart should not be doing so, in simple. But what I did think was my favorite part of this book, just because I thought it was pretty funny, about every 5 pages, they would say Heart of Darkness, or the darkness within your heart, or something of that nature. And oh, they said the thing. They say the thing about every 5 pages. I thought that was funny. But overall, I just expected more of this. I did think it was pretty good, but I kind of expected more. So, those are the 4 books that I read in the past 5 days. I still think that I did very good. I know I didn't do what I said I was going to and what I wanted to do, but I'd say I did a pretty good job. So, thank you for watching. This is my first ever BookTube video, and I'm hoping to post one every week, maybe every weekend. So 4 times a month. I'll see what I can do. Thank you.